This is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. When Bodie Gantz started telling me what his book was about, it sounded like this easy breezy walk through his childhood, visiting his cousins in St. Louis with his brother and all the fun things they did. 3 generations of boxers in the family. There was a boxing gym, and then this true story. Summer in Lockborough Park turns dark and disturbing.
Yeah, 3 generations all under one roof, and they run a boxing gym, and everything's going great, for years on end, and then all of a sudden, drugs came into the neighborhood, and there's a story about how they fought to keep the drugs out of the neighborhood, and then when the drug pushers killed their father, all gloves went off, and they went to war with them. The fathers of the teenagers did, Stephen and Carl. It's about them righting all the wrongs that were happening in their lives, because they spent their lives building up this boxing gym, keep young men off the streets and give them a purpose in life, And then the mob comes in and tries to destroy everything that their family built and all the good work that they're doing in the community. So they're doing everything they can to keep that from happening. One brother, Stephen, the main character, has 2 sons, Jonathan and Michael, and then his little brother Carl has a son, and his name's Stevie. It's named after his uncle.
How do you fight the mafia? How do you do that?
Well, yeah, it's one-on-one, basically. In the book, there's just 3 guys. The head guy, which is a West Side businessman, he has 2 people underneath him, which is Jimmy Cohen and Bob Miller, and they're basically just fighting Bob Miller, which is the muscle for the mob who's running the street operation. They got this drug pusher named Dougie, and Bob just basically directs Dougie on what to do and where to do it, and Dougie does their bidding, on the street. And then when they wouldn't let Dougie into the neighborhood and into the gym, that's when Bob comes in, which the character's name's Cowboy Bob Miller. But he loves cowboy movies, and actually he's from the south side of Philadelphia, but he just loves cowboys. So he always dressed like a rich old Texas colonel and drives a big old Cadillac with longhorns on it, which is this character that was running around the neighborhood back when we were kids. It was not know personally, but used to see. Yeah, it's just took on the persona of sound like Colonel Sanders, but an evil Colonel Sanders.
So what happens? Are they able to keep the gym going?
Yeah, they have some friends that Stephen and Carl grew up with. His name's Ron Crowley. And while Stephen and Carl is fighting with Cowboy Bob Miller and Jimmy Cohen, Ron Crowley keeps the gym open and runs it for them. And it's only a couple weeks' time.
They run the mob out of town.
Yeah, they fight them, and there's a couple killings in the book, which, like I said, the mob killed Carl and Stephen's father, and that's when all the gloves were thrown off, and they basically went to war with them. And they knew who they were fighting because they pressured Dougie into giving them the information of who it was that was in charge, and so they went after the people that were in charge. And it's not like a whole, 500 mafia men. It's just basically 3 men. And then, they got people underneath them running the streets for them. But it's basically, they learned the information of who they were fighting, who was in charge, and they went after the people that were in charge.
What were the drugs? Was it heroin?
Yeah, well, at first, Dougie was always in the neighborhood pushing Bennies and Quaaludes and marijuana. And then all of a sudden, Dougie added to his list of poisons heroin and cocaine. That's when Dougie got inducted into the mafia organization, started running drugs for them instead of just for himself. It's like, you're going to do this or die. You're going to work for us, like it or not type situation. I basically wrote this story for myself just because I held it in my heart for so long. And I don't need the money and I don't need the attention. It's just such a great story, and I just wanted to write it and put it on paper, and basically for myself and my family and for anybody that was interested in reading it, of course.
Well, I definitely think you're going to get some interest, Bodie. This is some story. Thank you. Imagine becoming successful and raising your family in a small Midwestern town, and then you fall. Scott Block hit the skids, and paybacks have been hell. But this tale of redemption, K-Dorm in 90 days, is proof it's not how you fall. It's how you get up.
What I should have done is bit the bullet and changed directions in my life, but I thought I could hold on to everything and kept things from people that could have helped me and kept things from family, and they kind of lost all the trust in me. And one lie doesn't cover up another one. It just leads to bad things, and essentially everything blew up. I was in the livestock business and was in charge of taking care of things for other people in the cattle business, and I sold some things that weren't mine, and I thought I could retrieve that money and get it back to the people, and that didn't happen. So, and eventually you get caught, and basically the dollar amount was large enough that it ended up being a felony, and so I had to spend some time in jail. I've since paid everything back and paid my debt, I guess, to society, and I'm moving on with my life.
How long were you in jail?
90 days.
Which must have seemed like an eternity to you.
For somebody who'd never been in that situation before, yes. I mean, I'm a college-educated person. I'm, at that time, a husband and father to 3 great kids. I was an elder in my church. I wasn't that person. But I don't know what made me do all that, but, everything happens for a reason, I guess. And, it did, and I was able to go in there, and, it's not a good environment for anyone.
And you lost your family?
Yeah, I've got a divorce since then. Just, I guess you couldn't see past that. My kids were not happy with me, but I since have got all them back and loving me, and, and we got a great relationship. But I did lose my wife over the deal, which was heartbreaking because we had a 27, almost 28-year marriage.
Wow. I wonder what it was. Was it greed?
I don't know. You know what? I don't know if it was greed. It was, I'd lived in this place. I'd raised my family there, and I think I thought there's no way I want to see them have to move and maybe see that their dad wasn't able to make it in that, doing what he was doing. But then I just made it worse. Pride, maybe, just didn't want to face the facts that I wasn't making money and wasn't going to be able to provide, and we were all going to have to do something different. And if I just would have fessed up to that, we'd all still be together. And you know what I'm saying? But I didn't do it that way. So I learned from it.
Are you still in the same town?
I am. I am in the same town. Obviously I lived in the country, but I stayed in the same town, and I lost a lot of respect, but I'm gaining it back day by day. And now I own my own house, and I just started this food trailer business 3 weeks ago, and I wrote this book, and I'll tell you what, life is really rolling right now. And so if you don't give up, you can still make things happen in your life.
And so are you going to the local bookstore to promote it? I mean, are people like, oh, I want to read this book,
You know what? It's kind of hard to, I live in a town of 10,000 people, so that's not real big. Everybody knows what you did because it was in the paper and all that kind of stuff. But I've had I've had people read it and then get a hold of me and talk about it. It was hard at first. It's gotten easier. Because I pretty much put my whole life in there and say what I did, and I'm not, I'm being brutally honest now, right? But so it's tough. But I don't know how I promote it in the. We don't even really have a local bookstore. We just got a Walmart.
This is great, though, but you're hoping people will learn from your experience.
I do. And some people that have read it that I've been close to have said, you better have a box of Kleenexes with you when you read it. Some people that I don't really know said it was opened their eyes. They were glad I read it, glad I wrote it. One person said he'd had a couple sons go to jail, and he was going to buy the book because he thought they ought to read it. And so I think it can help. I think it can help or enlighten or just be a story for a lot of different people, not just a specific group of people,
Scott, you definitely give people hope that, no matter how bad it gets, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. All right, thank you. A senior pastor at Church on the Rock in Anniston, Alabama, home of Broadway Joe Namath, Randy Hayes is a man on a mission to educate high school kids and the rest of us who just act like high school kids with his book, When Death Knocks, Don't Answer.
I get called on every once in a while to go to our local high school and speak to football players and cheerleaders, especially on game day. But it's not a motivational speech. They're looking for more of a spiritual speech. I related a lot of lifetime experiences to those kids, and I said, I believe that people can end their lives short. You know, I mean, I could choose to walk out in front of the interstate right now and do myself in, take some pills or shoot up or do something. You know, you can take your life out, but I believe God's got a designated a time that we don't know about that's going to be the end of our way, but it can happen earlier. And here's one thing, too, as a pastor, I've stood over I don't know how many caskets of teenagers and children that died, and I knew in my heart they died prematurely. This should not have happened. This age, if they had a little more knowledge, they may not have died. And I escaped it so many times that I said, man, I've got to share this. If I saved one life, it'd be worth writing this book for.
You say the book covers everything from accidents around the home, with cars, natural problems with nature, lightning and tornadoes. Like, it sounds like you're trying to impress upon your readers the importance of common sense.
Right. Common sense will help you a lot. I don't know, I read something earlier in my childhood about being prepared. And so I've looked at situations. I said, what would you do if this happened? And I'd go through and paint myself a scenario, you know, and then you'd be surprised how you might be facing that situation sooner or later. That I did, and it saved my neck. I'll give you one example. In the one chapter is about us crashing a van into a canal down in Florida. My dad was driving with me. We drove all night and got down there. He was driving. You know, he said, I'd like to finish up driving to Miami. I said, well, that's cool. We were already halfway down, and we had a good breakfast, and that's a mistake after being awake all night. We were going down the interstate, and he fell asleep. And I woke up, I heard gravel slinging up in the fender wells. I said, oh, my God. He woke up right before I could get the wheel in that hand. He snatched the wheel, and you're going 70 down the interstate one way, and then all of a sudden you're running backwards 70 miles an hour. And that's a scary feeling. We ran off the road, ran off into a canal, to make a long story short. And I thought, you know, well, if you hit that water, I know the first thing you got to do is get out, because that thing's going to bottom. Van's not made to float. And it held its own pretty good. And thank God we didn't go in upside down, or it would have been probably over. But the wheels were, resting in the water, and it was about halfway up the side of the van. And it's amazing. When you go to get out of something, when water's against it, it's like those doors are welded. You can't get out. And so I said, get your window down quick, climb out, let's get on top of the van, quick. So I jumped out. He's not there. He got tangled up in the seat belt or something, and finally, I guess just a surge of adrenaline or God's help or whatever, I reached over and grabbed him. He was coming out of the window about the time I seen the van tilting downward, and I grabbed him and pulled him out. With one hand, he hit the top. It tilted, and away we went, And, boy, it was something. But we came out. God rescued us.
So the moral of the story is?
Be prepared for what if. These what ifs, you'd be surprised how to save your life sometime.
Do you want people to buy the book, or did you write it so you could hand it out?
Well, I've done both. I've got a lot of pastor friends that I've mailed the book to, and scattered all over the United States, and to my church people, I gave every family a free copy, and just, stuff like that to just promote it. But I will be going to my local high school and handing out a bunch of free. So that's my heart, is to save people, especially young people. Nothing worse than being at a funeral. I've done hundreds of them, and parents standing over that casket of that child knowing they shouldn't have died. It was premature. And so that'll motivate you. If you could do something to stop that.
Well, I'll tell you what, Randy, that one chapter you just shared is worth the whole book. All right, we got to take a quick break, but we're coming right back. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything: copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
And you're back on the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. From our Don't Tell Us You're Too Busy to Write a Book file, we go to Colorado Springs, Colorado, where we find Jolene Howard, account rep for an educational tech company, actress, restaurateur, just to name a few. An idea popped in her head, and she had to write it. Originally from Tucson, that's where Crimson Glow is set, and we find Maura Delaney leading a double life.
Yes, your classic double life. But it was one that she was forced into, so it's something that she struggles with. And it's a whole world building piece that she has been forced into a life where she has her boring regular day job, of course, and her side hustle, I guess you could say, would be to do her best to get rid of all of the evil people in the world through a way advanced technology mechanism that she doesn't really even know how it all works.
What do you mean she doesn't know?
Well, she's only allowed so much information. She's just one of the little people on the totem pole, one of the soldiers out there who does her job because that's what she's supposed to do. She doesn't have a choice. And, she's kind of puppeteered by the people who are really in charge, or others that we really don't know yet in this book.
Okay, so they say you have to go out and murder this pedophile.
Right. In a nutshell, yes. She was just plucked out of reality and placed in this position. Of course, her love interest happens to be someone who has to make everything difficult for her mission. So you got to make it not an easy love interest.
We've got a serial murder on the loose. We've got the love interest. We've got people telling her what to do with her free time. Go out and kill people. And I have a feeling that this is a series. This doesn't end here.
Right. It is setting up for, the next piece, which, there's just so many different ways it can go. It's just opening up for so many possibilities. And yes, it does end on a cliffhanger.
For someone who works full time and is an actress, all of a sudden you decide, I'm going to write a series. I'm going to write not one book, but how many books have you written?
I haven't decided how many it's going to take to tell the story. So I like to keep it open. Every other aspect of my life is planned, but when it comes to being creative, I like to just go with the flow. So it's open for as many as it takes to really tell the story until it comes to some kind of an ending that is satisfying. I've been really busy. I just had twins.
What?
So,
you what?
Yeah, I just had a boy and a girl about 4 weeks ago. So I've been a little busy.
How's that working out?
It's been up and down. They're still in the NICU. So, that's been my life like lately is just going to visit the hospital a couple times a day and, try to run the household and do my job and, all the other things that you have to do in life.
Wow. You got a lot on your plate though now. So I guess promoting this book, how are you going to do that?
I've been promoting it online, with my author's webpage, of course, and word of mouth is always, the best way to go. So I've been really pushing it with, my circle of people, and they've been sharing it out as well. And actually, I have a bookstore right next to my restaurant. I own a restaurant. They have been also promoting my book. So, it's a variety of different avenues.
Geez, good for you. So you have a full-time job, you own a restaurant, and you just had twins and decided to become an author. What's better than that?
I get bored very easily, so I got to keep my plate full.
Well, you go, Jolene. I think you have accomplished that.
Yeah, I think I have.
By day, medical biller, mother of 4, and wife. By night, a writer. Shannon Eberhardt comes from a family of readers who appreciate female writers, and now Shannon takes a shot at becoming one of them with her book, Moments at McBride.
When I first started writing, the day that I actually went and picked up the pen, I was at the doctor's office with my little girl. She's 11 now. She was 5 at the time. And we got a notification from her doctor after some testing that she was going to have major spine surgery. And we were just in and out of doctor's offices and rehab and things all the time. I took a couple years off of work for it. And during that time, I'm sitting there consuming all these books. And I'm like, I love books so much. Why am I not trying to do this? So I come home that night and I get a notebook and a pen and I sit down and I start jotting down ideas. And it was about a week later that my notebook was completely full. And I started typing and I put it in the laptop, and a little while later, Moments at McBride was created. Jenny, she is a girl, she's in her early 20s that grew up facing a lot of tragedy in her life. And the one thing about Jenny was, instead of letting all the tragedy, all the bad things that had happened to her over the years, including losing her sister, instead of that shutting her down, she actually used it as inspiration to try to do something different with her life in a way that she could help others. So when Jenny grows up and she's in her 20s, she's dedicated her life to this. So she goes out and she takes her big leap of faith, moving to a new state, taking on a new job. And she's the only female orderly on staff in a major mental health facility. So she gets in there, and her whole goal with this is to help other people like her sister, because she's got a really big heart, and that's what she wants to do with her life. Then she finds out when she's in the door, maybe she bit off a little more than she can chew, because the first thing that happens to her is she's tasked with watching over the criminally insane patients. So it's a lot going on there. Plus, she's got all the flack that she's getting from the guys because she's the only female orderly in the hospital. So there's a lot going on in the story for her. She meets 2 guys, one that's there pushing her, trying to be better. And then she's got this other guy who's like patience of a saint, understanding. He's always there for her. So those 2 really are kind of like her sidekicks throughout the story. And while she's got this goal in mind, she knows that she can count on these 2 guys for help if she needs it. We leave it with a cliffhanger at the end. It's the first book in a 3-book series. So I'm actually writing Moments at McBride 2. She does get a visit from her sister that's passed away that is trying to warn her about some danger coming her way.
Her sister visits her from beyond.
Yes.
Okay, a little supernatural going on there.
Just a little bit. I'm on social media all the time. I've got Facebook. I've got Instagram. I've just started TikTok. Most of my information for publishing updates, I put out some book teasers, little promos, things like that. That's all on my Facebook account. And you can find me at author Shannon Eberhardt, or I also have a Facebook group that's called Shan's Pages. And a lot of the information is usually on that one.
So are you communicating with people that are interested in your book?
Oh, absolutely. We've been doing some giveaways. We've been chatting. There's videos, some correspondence going on. So I'm trying to get the word out and just give information as it becomes available, and then answer anybody's questions who want to reach out to me. And one of the really good ways to do that is through my author profile on Goodreads. There's always opportunities to leave questions on there that I can go in and answer.
All right, Shannon, good to know. Thank you very much. When William Bauer isn't delivering FedEx, he's writing down ideas. An idea about a dragon's relationship with a little boy nagged him for years, until his sister finally told him if he didn't write it down and publish it, she would disown him. So when he heard about Paige, that's just what he did. The name of his book, Called.
Well, I've always been interested in fantasy fiction and sci-fi and all that, and dragons are just something that have always fascinated me, the whole concept of them, and the way that different cultures have different perceptions of them. And it's just kind of amazing that across the planet, just about every culture has some version of a dragon. And even though they're all different, they're all very similar as well. Simply, it's about dragons. The premise is, in this day and age, in this world, dragons are enslaved by an evil empire. and chained to do their bidding. And one little boy is stolen to feed to a new hatchling, and that's when everything starts to go wrong. The boy befriends the dragon and eventually escapes and tries to make his way back home, and that's where the story starts. And it sets up the story for the next two. And the dragon's name is Nash, and Eric lives way up in the mountains where his parents decided to settle so that they could be away from this particular danger, because the army of the empire and the imperial family, they tend to feed children to baby dragons when they're first hatched because they're very hungry, and that way they develop a taste for the children and makes them more frightening to the populace. So they're trying to use that to control the population. And when Eric, the little boy, is being transported, the rider that has kidnapped him, he's a mean, very vicious person, and the dragon is less so. And when Eric, he knows he's not going to be able to escape, so he figures maybe he can turn the dragon, and he basically starts treating the dragon better. And the dragon he's an older dragon. He's not ancient by any measure, but he's gotten to a point in his life where he's accepted his fate, but he doesn't like it. And when Eric starts treating him better than anyone has ever done before, he realizes maybe there's something else out there. But he's still a slave. He's still got chains embedded in his flesh and his bones, and he can't escape that. So that's how the Empire controls the dragons. And they, if a dragon tries to escape, they would probably get tangled up in something and die of starvation long before they could get themselves free. When they get to the hatching, Eric manages to escape, but Nash is left behind. He steals the dragon that he was supposed to be eaten by, and they manage to escape. And the rider is given the task of hunting them down, basically. And when Eric returns home to his village, the rider arrives there pretty much the same time, and that's when Eric has an opportunity to free the dragon. So it's a little more complex than that, but that's the basic premise.
All right, William. Well, good luck with the rest of the trilogy. All right, we got to go. Thanks for stopping by, Night Owls. And if you're a downloader, we appreciate that too. 710WOR.com is where you'll find the podcast updated every week. Hope you're enjoying your Memorial Day weekend. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini.